So,
oh, right, yeah. Just,
no?
yeah.
Okay.
I just say next no on.
Okay, thanks. So, why? Because in the last DQ for APT thread inside the last test by 21, we decided to develop a stack extension for liability and claims, or more people can, to try to test all the different aspects of the connection between catalog implementing different ISO standards. In the particular case was 115, 19115, and 19157. NASA that is using UML, training DML and missing some in the definition of training DML. And we were
the most important part, the AI.
Yes, for intelligence, and the W3C probe and sales and so on. We were doing a lot of exercises, and in fact, in GitHub you can find a lot of. There were several versions of this extension that implement at the various levels all the different standards, incorporating this in a common approach. And we tested this in the experiment we did in the server implemented during the thread 1 and 2. Basically, what we were dealing about, liability that defines the responsibility for data accuracy and quality, and claims that enable cryptographic proof of ownership and lineage, and was facilitating intercatalog communication. These all served in a spatiotemporal asset catalog, because the spatiotemporal control in APT is very important. So there are two limitations in time and the geographic boundaries that should be considered. And then another important part of the activity was the building blocks harmonization with what already in place at OGC. In fact, we submitted the building block part of the stack extension for the building claims, and to harmonize obviously with the OGC API to respect the standards, to have something that implements fully this concept inside this, and to try to have a sort of unified discovery. Basically, at the real end, is the main concept is the federated search, that you don't care about where are the data, which catalog are you using. It's important that you are able to retrieve the information. The concept of catalog is relative. It can be a file system, it can be whatever. So you really don't care. You should not really don't care what is the storage platform, but you should be between different domains to retrieve the information. Next step. I leave the floor to my colleague.
Oh, okay. Okay, what is the key point to make here? Yes, so when you're dealing with sensitive information, for example, and you want to get access to information that is protected, that is licensed, that is restricted for particular use, you need some kind of an architecture that controls access. And asset controller is one particular flavor of implementation that uses decentralized identifiers, verifiable credentials, and zero knowledge proof to test whether or not you are entitled to get a particular asset. Yeah, so you want to download something you found in a catalog, and you go to the endpoint, and then this machinery kicks in, right? So the simple access control is you log in with username and password. The problem with all these things is your credentials live local. Now, then there are bodies that say federated access, federated authentication, yeah. So I log in there, and I go over there, and they say, who are you? I'm from there. Yeah, how can I trust that? So all of this has limited scope when it goes in a decentralized, in a distributed environment. So our idea was leveraging decentralized identifiers from a blockchain. So hurrah, if you have a key pair on the blockchain, then everyone can resolve your identity because it's a decentralized architecture. Everyone has access to it. So you need bits. And based on the bits, you get verifiable credentials, you get certificates, and with that, you can then demonstrate that you have a particular certificate, a particular verifiable credential to download something. So this is the concept of the asset controller. And there is a beautiful video, TESCA 21 response result that documents that in more detail. Yes, next. Right, so the flow is very simple. You first authorship, so you create something with Lucio's plugin, for example. So you are identified here with a DIT. So a decentralized identifier gives you the identity. Then you use something. Then the result of this you store somewhere in a decentralized file system. So for example, IPFS. Johnny knows the acronyms. IPFS.
Interplanetary File System.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Decentralized with hashes. So so you upload it there. Then for what you uploaded for the asset, you create a metadata record with liability and claims extension. So for example, a stack item, and you upload that to the blockchain. So then you have an immutable catalog backed by a blockchain. There you can find your stuff that is on integrity protected file system, interplanetary file system. So basically that you can find that. So here is the discovery stuff. So you can use either stack or records or whatever to find this metadata to then go here. And in front of IPFS is the asset controller. So access control in front of IPFS is asset controller where you need certificates and something to prove that you can download stuff. Next, please. So this is now Lucio's part.
So all these things are coming from the different pilot started last year with OGC, for the GGS for flooding, and they were starting to develop a RAG for supporting common operating picture to pass to other emergency services information. And the concept of having IPT implemented is fundamental because all this information in the COP in an emergency situation is information for which you are liable. So if you're passing it to an emergency service information that is dealing with flooding, with hospital, with whatever, this is something that should be recorded. So there are several aspects here. The first is the pilot was stressing the concept to use artificial intelligence and retrieval augmented generation for having this artificial intelligence result embedded in the workflow of the emergency management. In this case, was flooding in Red River Valley, Manitoba, Canada. So the problem is that if you feed the system with LLM that is generic and is retrieving data from nowhere, you have hallucination. I mean, the data are sparse, are not really consistent. So what came to our mind was to use a small local language model. Means, okay, we create something local, we feed this machine, this LLM with the local, with the data that we know that are valid for the specific purpose. So the data as a result of the RAG are more valid, a certain degree of validity, 95%, whatever, that can go as a collateral information to the COP that is transmitting just the road network status, alarms, and so on and so forth. So this approach seems to be viable, and we are playing with this also in the other activities, in the other testbed, and playing a little bit with this. As I said before, the COP link every expedition to authoritative immutable grid truth and decision can be traced back to signed immutable sensor records. This is very important in this case, emergency or any official act that is liable. So you have to respond on what is going on. So how many people injured and so on and so forth. So this kind of stuff are quite important. And integrity, because in this way, as I said before, you can establish a sort of integrity of information because you know that the data you are using are data you already validated before. It's not a generic LLM answer. It's something specific for the specific application. Next. And these are another example I was developing. For example, for asbestos mapping with hyperspectral imaging. In this case, the same concept apply. This why? Because we want to stress that the IPT concept is multi-domain. So no matter of where you apply this is fundamental. We did a small interface with hyperspectral imagery. So you have spectral signature that you have the algorithm registered, because if you apply in a process an algorithm to some images, you should keep track of the type of algorithm you applied. So this is important when you are producing this kind of information that have a legal value. So spectral provenance for the sensor calibration, liability claims to document the diagnostic responsibility and the legal claims for the hazard, calibration trust, again, for scientific accuracy, public trust, because this kind of stuff requires then a municipality intervention, so you need the legal basis. Here, for example, below is a bad picture, but there is the cadastral data, so you know exactly. It's not a very good example, but where the different bits and pieces of asbestos are, so you can say, okay, this is here, you have 1 centimeter, 10 square centimeter, 1 square meter here, there in the property of A, B, C person or company or whatever it is. Next. And as I said, we apply to a lot of other cases. I was developing some interfaces for medical hyperspectral imaging for skin cancer, for example, to detect and to, because there the validity, the liability of the diagnosis for a certain person with this problem is legally binding for the person. The same for archaeological site. I did some application for with QGIS plugins and the material verification. Next. So as you see, the same concept applied to a lot of cases. The extension is for standardizing inter-catalog trust, as we said at the beginning. And as we are stressing, the liability defines legal and operational responsibility for the data asset. So it's quite clear this, because when you produce something out of geospatial or any other image, you are, for other uses, is legally binding. The claims help us in keep cryptographic proof of the provenance of the information. And as we said, the stack catalog, spatial temporal asset, that because this information can be confined in space and time. I want to give Gobi access to this information for 1 week and then end. Or I want you to share data over a certain region for 1 month, and this okay. So this kind of concept should be applied. Next. Yes, and then the effort we are doing to try to harmonize this with OGC building block. We already submitted this, been revised by Alejandro, and now I send it back with some changes, and I hope in the near future is managed. Next. Thank you. You? No. That's what we are trying to support. So basically, paradigm shift in trust. Why? Because at the real end, if you are able to put again the trust of the people in the information they have access to, is something that help the people in finding a good ground truth, confidence in digital, and enable trust autonomous cross-platform interaction without central silos. So it's a sort of revamping the public confidence in digital society, social contract through verifiable transparency. That's the concept we want to say. Now you are looking at artificial intelligence result and say, yes, it's true or not true. The confidence is minimal. With this kind of concept, and if you explain these kind of things, you enable the fact that people is reestablishing certain confidence on the information they are providing. Of course, this can be applied just to specific sector, as we say, the small local language model applied to other data and so on and so forth. But if you extend this to many of these, at the end you have a lot of more confidence in the information you're producing, at least at the institutional level. And then you can do this for a legal firm or for whatever. So you can start from small islands and then to build something more bigger. Thank you. Next. As we said, this is just to repeat basically the concept. the good thing is that you know you should not consider which is the specific catalog to access. That's good because you have a generic interface that say, okay, I need blah blah satellite data, and this can be here, there, in different agencies. In this way, it's transparent because you are exposing the type of satellite data, and then the different catalog expose this information, so you're able to glue all together. As we said already, spatio-temporal access, and the most important things are the building blocks that enable us unified approach to OGC API that enable the concatenation, as we said in the AI pilot for the GGS sort of orchestrator of the different service that is automatic based on the ontologies, we want to say, that are there on the different dictionary we have there. So the system can automatically detect which kind of service, which kind of data, and not only, this is very important. Imagine that you have data, any format, GME or whatever. This data have a sort of ontology around them that say, okay, this data are containing basically this or that information, and they have certain right to be accessed or to be distributed, a reusability concept. Well, good. With that, also the services can be concatenated in order to give access to certain transformation of information, and not only the services you use, the OGC API that you are going to use, is something that also is registered as in the system with specific integrity with the DID and the provenance record applied, that is the algorithm we use. So at the real end, you have an automatic orchestrator that is able to process things depending which is the access right you have and the access right of the different algorithm you're using for the specific role you have. So it's very powerful in this sense, and it's something you can rely on, because you can always detect. In the plugin I developed for the testbed 21 for the GME stuff that is public on internet, all the provenance track, if you apply, is all the provenance information is inside the RDF, and it is written inside the extension of the GME file. And then if you apply different algorithm for auto-rectification things, also this is tracked because you know where it's coming from, and you have all this information inside. We need a lot of development, and we need to do this better, but that's the concept. And that's the concept, moving from isolated metadata to a verifiable claims ecosystem. It's a very important concept. I think it's one of the last one. Or...
You can verify everything.
Yes, you can verify everything. I mean, nobody say you that you just produce something and you put on the web, no problem. But if you want to use this information, you know that this is a verified information, this is not a verified information. And yeah, connected system, I go with this.
So one of the latest endeavors that I started recently is to implement, just for fun, connected systems API. So as an exercise during a train ride from Munich to Northwest Germany. So within 5 hours, I implemented connected systems API. And then I was wondering, because I thought, this API, this IPT concept here that we have done, this ecosystem that we built with blockchain and immutable catalog and all that stuff, potentially in connected systems, you also need to know if things are really what you claim they are. So is that your drone? Is that the flight plan of the drone? Is that what the drone actually has done? Is that all the commands to the drone while it was in operation? So there is also information in connected systems that need to be verifiable, that need to be immutable. So if I have a drone and it has a particular combination of sensors and everything, you cannot change it. That is the system that is flying. And if it goes offline and it vanishes, then I know exactly that that is it. So I have a flight plan, and if I execute the flight plan and something happens and people say, show me the flight plan, and you can say, oh, that's it, because it's a verifiable credential, it's a trusted something on the blockchain. It is exactly that. There's no question about it. You cannot change it, right? It is there. So my question was basically when I was implementing this, there is potential in connected systems to go with immutable catalogs and with blockchain and all that stuff that we're doing in IPT in testbed 21. So as soon as you then use connected systems, I implemented that for a particular use case, drone management. Okay, so not a generic thing, but connected systems applied to drone management. And I was thinking now, okay, what do we all need in connected systems to change, to be extended, to allow that we can validate and verify information that is related to systems and what the systems actually, the data that they produce. So all the stuff that you're downlinking, the videos, the GPS information, all that stuff that you are collecting potentially needs to be verified at the end, right? So, and this is the question, open point at the moment. Yeah. And then this real-time IPT, right? So the drones are downlinking information. Is it possible to actually apply our IPT stuff from testbed 21 to streaming? Yeah. So in the testbed stuff was limited in double quotes, dealing with static files. Now imagine you have a stream of data. Can you simply use that? What does it take? Is it possible? Is it not possible? Can you apply this immutable catalog thing with stream data? And so I created some crazy ideas, but yeah, it's in the very first stage. So hopefully I can have a discussion here or in Helsinki in a couple of weeks to get, and yeah. So I had a chat with Sam Bolling on this already, a private chat more or less. And so I'm reaching out to people. We are reaching out to people because he is doing the client side, the QGIS plugin to deal with all this. I do the connected systems backend to just experiment with this and how connected systems and IPT should work together. So this is exactly
what we just said.
And this is something Lucio can talk about because
basically it's what you just said.
He's very close to the drones.
We took a drone and exactly the idea was to try to check this in a real environment and work with high frequency streams, so a lot of stream of data. This morning I was playing with him and we had successful stream, but not still real time, but a simulation. So good. Seeing that of low power IoT devices, because this is useful also when you have Internet of Things and the drone is receiving information from sensors here and there, and for continuous data flows. That's the open point. Are we able to do this? This is a good question mark. And also to exactly identify low latency interoperability is also good. An interesting point to discuss now, if this is the framework or not. Next. Yeah, again, this discussion point, how to combine exactly. And we were also doing the last the presentation of the testbed 21. There were good points like how to combine IPT results with testbed 21 Jimmy. A sidecar file, a stack item with a reliability and claim extraction on immutable catalog is enough, is not enough, something to be discussed. Catalog as for stack item into W3C verify for credential to allow verification of disconnect. Sorry, it's clear that it's me writing about something else.
Not connected.
Those connected is me. You can into missing. So that's also a good point, disconnected environment. We were checking and effectively you can export part of the verifiable credential in a disconnected environment, operate with this, and then when you're connected, you have this stuff verified again. So this is also a point to be considered. So next question, but the most important things for us, and I have to thank the sponsorship of Mr. Juan Maso from CREA, towards the trusted geospatial intelligence fabric. So I think it's a good point for OGC to move to something like this, that is more or less, is not anymore standardization of format A, format B, data B, service A, service B. At the real end, all these things are dynamically living. They live in our environment. So what we want is a fabric of geospatial intelligence, sort of machinery that is moving, that should be trusted. So I think the paradigm shift the OGC is facing in this period is exactly this. It's not anymore, it's still the fact that you have to standardize this and that, but we have to see this with a different view, that is the workflow of the stuff moving together.
Yeah.
I think it's the last one.
That's the last one.
That's the last one.
If you, I mean, most of you know me for quite some time already, and I'm not a geospatial person at all, right? I've never been. So I came to OGC 25 years ago with a crazy idea on security. And my view is data to me is a blob. It's zeros and ones. And geospatial data is a blob with location, and that is it. So I don't care about the format. I don't care about what the name of the standard of the encoding is. It is all a blob. So the concept here that we have developed is completely independent from any data format, from any what. So you can apply it to whatever. But because we are here, because we're OGC members, because we care about geospatial, we applied the concept to geospatial to prove that it works and see what's missing and what's the uptake. So this fabric thing is very important because it is independent from, is it a service? Is it a file? Is it a gimme file? Is it a JML, JP2? We don't care. It's an asset. And we do asset management here. We do integrity, provenance, and trust for assets. What exactly an asset is up to you guys, right? So it's
basically people want to have access to digital information in a certain way to be sure that what they are consuming is a good product and is a valid product with certain validity. It's like when you buy food, there is a validity stamp there and say not to be used by people who are allergic to this and that.
And you can apply to bananas, to apples,
exactly.
to pork pieces, to chicken, to
exactly.
It doesn't matter, right? Because the machinery is the same. So thank you all for listening. Johnny, any final remarks? Thank you for being our sponsor.
Very good presentation.
Thank you.
So we have a break now.
Yeah, we have a break. So I don't know if there are any questions for Lucio and Andreas.
Better not.
You open the number of okay.
Well, I mean, so with me, I don't know if this is like the right time to ask the question. Maybe I should wait another 5 or 10 years, right? So, so basically, here's the thing: we've got quite a lot of imagery that is being generated using AI platforms at the moment. And the other day, I read some guidelines from the legal profession where they were talking about it was guidelines about using AI, but this particular document only briefly spoke about whether imagery or images generated by AI were applicable within a legal context. So so in 10 years' time, can we imagine a situation? I mean, I'm not saying that we should create it because this is something that should happen more or less, or that might happen naturally, in the sense that are we foreseeing a situation whereby the only way, say in 5-10 years' time, the only way that an image would become admissible in court would be if it had something like this supporting it?
You may, but I also have an answer for that.
Okay.
You go first.
No, that's exactly what you said. If you are something illegal and there is a liability on the information you are using, that's something you should prove.
Yeah.
There is no mechanism other than this. There are mechanisms, but this is coming also from the Data Act of the European Union legislation. So it's not coming from the clouds.
Yeah.
It's coming from a real need inside the agency to be liable for the information you produce.
Yeah.
And this is legally binding. Now, if you're able to say that this image generated by AI is derived from an image A, B, C with process A, B, C, and at the end you do, because if you are using an image, then you are liable for the image you are using, and you're not able to prove, you are liable for what you're doing.
Yeah.
So if you want to sketch bad things or to say bad words and you're publishing, you are liable for this. As I said before, you are free to produce whatever you want.
Yeah.
But if you want to use this in a legal framework, you should know where this information is coming from and how to apply. In our geospatial domain is something I think we are more or less clear how to apply. There's a lot of stuff to do, but that's the business.
Okay.
Please, Andres.
Yeah.
So when you think about all this, you are scared in the corner because you more regulations, more, and I have to use all this complicated machine. So how can we get uptake of things like this? And I see basically two worlds. The Web 2 that we have at the moment, it's a clone of information, unverified. For sure, some people make a right statement, but very many people make a false statement, and they're not corrected because it's so much information, you cannot really find out what is correct and what is not, and in how far and how to correct it. And now with AI generating for us in milliseconds fake images, fake news, and everything. I'm on very many security blogs, and one is from a German company called Heise. They have a magazine, and there are links in there to follow on interest. And there was one thing, they tested AI, and they gave AI a very simple question. Was Barack Obama the first Islamic president? Guess what the AI said? Yes, he was. Upon what ground did AI make that statement? Well, there's a book. It says Barack Obama, colon, the first Islamic president, question mark. That was the trusted source of AI for answering, yes, he was. So what AI cannot cope with at the moment is rhetoric. Anything rhetoric, AI cannot make sense. So there are hallucinations and everything. So when you have IPT like this, will it solve the problem? No, of course not. But if your stuff that you have registered, you have created, you register in an ecosystem like this, you create ownership. It's your statement. That changes everything. It's your statement. It's no longer anonymous. It's no longer a thrifting copy on the internet. It is your statement. So if someone else can say, oh, this statement, I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but it's from Joe. And for some reason, I have a LinkedIn connection via 3 points I can trust with Joe, then, okay. So maybe I can trust Joe. Well, we have these social network connectivities and all that. We trust people by, you are my first connection on LinkedIn, you are my second, but because it's via you, I can. So if you think about uptake of all this and how it will be used in the future, what I see is that people have an interest if they generate some real, provable, grounded facts, images, whatsoever. They will not be shy to say, this is what I generated. So Web3 is ownership. Everything has an owner. So I can knock your door and say, what the fuck is that? Because I know it's yours. And because we have this ownership concept in Web3, and this is towards Web3, what we have been doing, this will change something. Not sure in geospatial, but for sure, right? Because people must have an interest in generating real news, real images, and they say, this is mine. Yeah. So this is just, I'm not sure this is also fitting to your question, but I think when you think all of this, right, and geospatial in EO, if I'm using EO satellite images from ESA, from NASA, from who, whatever, and I conflate it with other information, I produce something. Well, if I'm honest and if I did everything right, there's nothing wrong with saying, here's a metadata record, and I put it on the blockchain, that is me. I did that. Done. So if someone else comes along in the catalog and searches for data and they find it and they say, oh, Gobi created that. Oh, great, I can use it because I know it's from Gobi and I can trust Gobi, so let's go with it, right? This is the uptake that I see here.
So it comes down to creating an identity for humans to be trusted.
A human would have
a human, because we don't care with if
AI
does it. We humans.
If you use AI to produce an image,
that's fine. If I'm
and you can register that image with you. Yeah. It's your did. It's your did.
But then I'm liable for this. I'm the important thing. Yeah. The important thing is that
if you make that available, share that with others. If you share that with others, you can do that anonymously. You can share that with others anonymously. No one stops you. But if you want to share that with others and you want to get credit for it because you are proud of it, this is your research result or whatever, then you say this is mine.
Not only proud, I see it like in the future that Gobi was saying, in 10 years, there will be so much content around, floating around, that if you want to swim and you want to be...
In 10 days, we have this in 10 days or in 10 years, but
So you want to make sure that you stand out of all this.
Yeah, exactly, and that is what we think in the EO, in the geospatial, in the domain processing, right? If you produce something, and you take the metadata item and put it on the blockchain, this is yours. It's immutable. You cannot change it anymore. You cannot take it back. You produced it, right? So now you have ownership associated with that. And others are looking for this ownership. And if there's ownership, if they know who it's coming from and they can verify that that is really what Joe produced, there is an uptake.
But,
because
Andreas, how do you see this identity linked? Is it linked to a government ID or?
It doesn't matter what it's linked to.
Will not. It's another problem.
Yeah, but we need to have a way of.
The concept.
For sure it will.
But you can have your ID wherever in GC and maybe in a federated approach, you have access to, I don't know, Visa, NASA.
Okay, so there's a trusted system.
Not only you, but also the services. So if you're using an AI to produce something, if the data should go there, they need to have this provenance information. So otherwise, it cannot be registered. If you want to force the registration, you do it, but without provenance. So you know that you're doing something that is.
So we need a trusted system for the IDs of people, like we have now.
But the good things of this, just to explain clear, is that your ID, when you have now your login, now your email. This is your ID, let me say. With this system, you can say, okay, for the next 3 months, as I said before, you can have access both to ESA and the NASA catalog plus, I don't know, whatever catalog. And then it's top.
That all comes on top. Yeah, that all comes on top.
You have not to rebuild something that to publish a new service to give access to you for this specific stuff. Just modifying your permission, your right there. And then your data, you are owner of your data. So you can say, I have the reversibility of my data, of this data to GC and to Lucio or Gobi or whatever. But tomorrow I can change it and not to touch the data itself.
No, I was just thinking that the system that hosts this identity should be something like you have in the IDs for metadata, like a system where you register.
Just name the blockchain. Ethereum, Solana. Just name a blockchain and say this is my DIT from that blockchain, and then it's you. That's it. Just name it.
So at the moment, there's a huge discussion around imagining what the next Inspire is going to look like. So
I better go sit and shut up.
So the next Inspire. I mean, I think it's fair to say that something like this could be a key part of whatever Inspire is going to look like.
We can discuss for days, but
if
the Data Act in Europe, in European is in place, you should do something like this.
Something like that, exactly. Yeah.
This is a good working prototype.
Yeah.
If they are keen to start playing with this available tomorrow, even on GC is available because
we did in OGC a lot of effort from 2019, 20, and 21 around this.
Yeah.
So now we have basically the ideas more or less clear.
Mm.
And then
Perhaps even go as far as to say if any data is to be used for cadastral registration, etc., it has to be backed by.
I showed
You know,
the sample
something
for
like that.
asbestos, for archaeological
Yeah,
site,
yeah.
for skin.
Yeah.
And maybe
We can do legal stuff for insurances.
Yeah.
if you have a minute, go another browser tab, ic.ogc.scd.eu.
Sorry, I see.
ic.ogc.sec.eu.
I see dot
It's all in my
IC, no, I see.
SC
scd.eu.
SCCD.eu.
Dimension EU.
Is this
Yes,
it?
is IC or?
Yeah, I see. So this
Okay,
is
okay.
this is one of the 6 components developed in testbed 21, right?
Okay.
And so there are the different stack catalogs. So you have these different stack catalogs from testbed 21. So there is the IPT, that one at the bottom left there, catalog for DQ IPT. That one is from our thing. So this is a regular spec catalog, but the items are on the blockchain. So immutable.
They are immutable, but there still doesn't respond my question, because I think we need a gatekeeper for this system. We need to have some governance to prevent, for instance, an AI to register this in blockchain, because they can do it as well, right? So
You can do it, or this.
anyone can do it, a bot or a human. But I would like to have a system, like, for instance, you have the, how's it called for libraries? The DOIs. DOIs, I cannot create a DOI. I need to go to one of these organizations that, DOIs, digital object identifiers, that you use for papers, for data.
Yeah.
DOIs. So I can create my DOIs, but they don't have value.
Of course.
Because-
Frederick, you are
Right.
But that's your ID. That if you are a publisher, if you are a newspaper.
Exactly.
And another example of a newspaper starting to use the Reuters with the Leica camera. For example, now, I think I'm not wrong, the Leica has produced a camera where you can create the
An identifier.
identifier
Yeah.
that is published with the article with the newspaper. This is linked. The same approach.
But-
So basically, you federated with this Leica and the Reuters.
Okay, so Leica is distributing.
Leica is the machine that.
I know, but
And
they
the
created
Reuters,
it.
the guy that writes the books, they can merge stuff and mix out. Now, the good things of this being federated means something with blockchain stuff, that you can install this and you can create and you can change the federation of this as you wish.
Yeah.
The geometries can be modified one day by the other. Not everything has to be federated. Not everybody has access to everything.
I understand the technology. I'm worried about the government.
And I think the question that you're making will always depend on the context. But maybe
Yeah.
the government will have a digital ID.
Yeah.
Or if we create another organization,
Oh,
we can
no,
rely on
organization,
PGP.
exactly. OGC can create one as well. I don't know.
But you can do like in all times, PGP parking, where you are saying you're a human,
Yeah.
this is my key.
But these different organizations have different levels of trust.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can give more trust to this organization than to the local.
You allow these guys this person to access one system or another.
Yeah,
We in Europe, everywhere, we have the digital ID card now.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
That has a value, and the email address has less value. Right?
But the digital card ID is a number that you can use wherever.
Yeah.
Which authentication method is for onboarding, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So long as the government trusted.
Yeah.
You can use whatever onboarding mechanism, right? But it really doesn't matter. And it depends on what the purpose is that you want to achieve, right? So which level of assurance are you going to produce
Exactly.
on a system like that?
Exactly, level of assurance.
So,
I would say that
but this is a discussion disconnected from the technical
Yes, it is.
level,
It is.
right? This is the procedural level,
It's
how
a
we,
governance.
if we
The concept
want
is
to
there.
push this forward, the question is how and what does it take? From a technical perspective, to me, that's solved.
Yeah,
So the technology is not the problem. The problem is now how to get people to use it, how to put something out there that is easy to use and people are using it. Huh? So that's that's
So have we thought about, because I know at least Creo some, they've got some projects on like biodiversity and stuff. So have we thought about identifiers for non-humans, but for livestock? I'm thinking like agricultural applications and things such as those. Have we thought, are there any special requirements?
What do you say?
This is exactly the same. Any
Just
company
asset is.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
put in a
You can take a
digital,
photo of your house and it becomes digital asset.
exactly, any digital asset,
Yeah.
any digital service,
Because I know with ranching, I think farmers are required to like the cow, at least with cows, they ingest some identification thing, which and sometimes on the ears and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering about, how we relate that
the
to.
dog is cheap, I mean.
Yeah, exactly those things. Yeah.
So this part is, one side is a little bit scary, yes,
Mm.
was saying, but on the other side is very useful.
Yeah.
Because at the other end, I mean, if you want to produce fake data, do it.
Yeah.
Not that fun, do it.
Yeah.
That's normal, but if you're not going to register this in a system like this, that this is a stuff, there's a bad things or something, and you put there. Really free to do it.
Yeah.
Freedom first and then.
So if you think, for example, about geotech photos, right?
Mm.
So how can I make sure that that photo is really taken there? So I
Yeah.
have an incident and I take pictures of my incident. How can I make sure that these pictures are really from that incident at that time at that location?
Mm.
So, you can go home and Photoshop something
Yeah.
and modify GPS and whatever. So this Leica camera thing that Reuters is using, I mean, they invented that for the.
you need to make sure that the coordinates are
So,
correct.
so the camera has a private key
Yeah,
in the machinery. So each photo is digitally signed, and when they upload the digitally signed photo to Reuters, they can validate which operator took the photo, and all the information inside of the image, like GPS and time and everything, is burned into that in the digital signature of the photo.
wasn't there a standard for this? Not a standard, but it's called, that standard with the blockchain. What was it?
Oh, right.
Oh, I forgot.
For the name starts with an F. It wasn't Frost.
No, it's
It
not.
wasn't-
Frost. Actually,
Okay.
Yeah.
right.
Foam. It was foam.
Foam protocol. Foam protocol.
So
Yeah.
it was a protocol that well, I think it was before the pandemic, and I think they joined OGC for 1 or 2 years, and so basically they came up with some way of so they could get coordinates from, I think it was from a device or a physical device, which
A set of devices.
a set of
Yeah.
one of the use cases was like was for like asset tracking. There was another one that was for, I think, for border monitoring or something like that. And the coordinates were sent to a blockchain. I don't know which blockchain.
Yeah. So it was,
But
I was playing with RFID, no suspicious time, the same approach.
Mm.
But at the end, you need something standardized that is able
Yeah.
to manage this in all the services and all the data format we are dealing with.
yeah,
Because otherwise you cannot, at the other end, without this, you cannot even install a system in a GeoWish here.
Mm,
If you don't respect such kind of stuff. Because everybody can produce anything here. And, well, I modified the database. There are 3 people accessing.
yeah.
Yes, we can check, we can look, but
And they have
it started to be really
The unicorn that doesn't speak the local language. That's always my number one.
So at the end, it's important to have this approach, especially information, where information is used where something we are liable to hold.
Yeah. So effectively, one of the key things, therefore, is a provenance registry of some kind where somebody, say, for instance, a not-for-profit organization or something, makes a service available to the wider community, like the widest and like the whole world, whereby the provenance of any digital asset can be recorded and recalled should the need ever arise. So that anybody can go in and say, I've got this asset, I want to know what happened to it from the minute it was collected from the field.
This discussion also was reinforced by AI for the GGS pilot for the emergency management,
Right.
common operating picture.
Yeah.
These are legal statements. You are sending people to do something else.
Yeah.
Moving people out from the house because the flooding is foreseen at
Yeah.
2 meters, and then at the end is 50 centimeters.
Mm.
So people can complain with you. Why I went out of the house because that's 50 centimeters then. But yes, I foresee that was 2 meters. No, security.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there
yeah.
is a lot of this problem here around that are nasty problem, and they create the overhead on top of the organization producing this information, people managing the data. That doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah. Wow.
But you can see this immutable catalog or whatever, this provenance registry, as some mechanism to do citation.
Mm.
So when you write a scientific paper and you quote someone, you need to cite
Yeah.
that quote.
Yeah.
It's not mine, it's from that person or from that whatever. This system allows you to do exactly the same. You can say, this is my product, and I used as an input that product from over there,
Yeah.
and this is the provenance address
Yeah.
on the blockchain that I'm referring to,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So you can use it as a type of citation mechanism. So DOIs,
Yeah.
here there are DITs, right? But basically you have a DIT and you can quote that, and so you put that in your product and you say, okay, this is my product, it's based on that and that and that, and
Yeah.
you can go and validate, right?
Yeah.
So this
Is
is,
this a blockchain agnostic? Can be any blockchain?
no,
Which
no,
blockchain?
it cannot be any.
Which blockchain are you using?
The answer is clear, right?
Ethereum.
So basically, blockchains are separated into very many categories. And one that you want to use here is one for provenance. So a provenance blockchain like Hyperledger Fabric.
Correct.
So Fabric is the one that is behind the catalog. And the identities is Hyperledger Indy, which is a identity blockchain. It does not do provenance, it does do DIT.
Okay.
Right? So in the testbed 20 implementation is Hyperledger Indy for the DITs, for the identities, and Hyperledger Fabric is in the immutable catalog, in the stack catalog, that's provenance.
Okay.
And the good thing about Hyperledger Fabric is it is a authoritative blockchain, so it doesn't need any energy, because authoritative nodes, so operators, operate the blockchain. And these operators of the nodes are the authoritative entities that can make decisions whether or not a particular transaction will be accepted. So the acceptance mechanism is something like by design for tolerance.
It's very quick. It's very quick.
You can do 10,000 transactions per second with it.
Exactly.
Oh, it's not Bitcoin. It's not Bitcoin.
No.
So this is authoritative. So, and the distributed ledger aspect here, Gobi, you're still listening, right?
I am.
What do you get here is a distributed stack catalog. Free of something, because the blockchain does it. Each node has a local copy. Distributed ledger. Each ledger has a full copy of the catalog.
Yeah.
So when you have GeoDNS enabled, you go to your local node, and the blockchain federates all the catalogs. So if you make a transaction, it synchronizes when it does a transaction, all the different ledgers. So you can go to any ledger, they all have the same copy, they all have the same catalog. So problem solved, you don't have to harvest catalogs overnight and all that crap. They all go to